Asus's fresh new Zenfone 6 is definitely the first Asus smartphone to get me truly properly excited. I mean, up to now the Zenfones have been absolutely fine, but they're generally about as sexy as an oiled up Nigel Farage all clad in lederhosen and sat on top of a giant turnip. But that all changes with the Zenfone 6, in no small part because of that funky flip camera. And it's not just the awesome motorized motion as well, but some of the smart camera features that Asus has packed in to really make the most of it. I've been testing out the Zenfone 6's camera for a good few days now, and here's my review of some of those features, as well as of course the general photo and video quality. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, don't forget to subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So first up, while many mobile rivals now come packing at least a triple lens setup, the Zenfone makes do with just two. There's a 48 megapixel primary lens complete with a Sony IMX586 sensor, which has proven very popular. You'll also find it on the likes of the OnePlus 7 Pro and plenty of other recent handsets. And that's backed up by a 13 megapixel ultra wide angle lens which sits alongside it. Sadly, there is no telephoto option for getting closer to your subject without any loss in detail, but if that's what you really want, then don't worry, there's plenty of other alternatives out there. At any time, you can switch between the two camera lenses with just a tap of these icons down here, swapping from a standard view to that wide angle effort in roughly a second. Thankfully, the secondary shooter still captures clean looking photos with natural color reproduction, just like the primary sensor, so you're not sacrificing image quality to get that wider viewpoint. And as you can see, it does capture a nice broad shot. You can get plenty of stuff in there, which makes it perfect for capturing a big wide vista or just a large group of people. In the autophoto mode, you also have a bit of AI scene detection similar to the likes of the Huawei smartphones. This is supposed to recognize stuff like flowers, pets, text, things like that, and then automatically adjust the camera settings to take the best possible shots. Here on the Zenfone 6, the setting is tucked away in the settings menu, so you can't just quickly knock it on or off when desired. But to be honest, it seems to do bugger all anyway. I've tried it on loads of different subjects, and you can see when it's actually active thanks to the pop-up icons, but the results always seem to be identical whether you have the AI mode on or off. Never mind though, because the overall image quality is highly respectable. Whatever you're aiming the Zenfone 6 at, you can expect strong detail and natural looking colours, which means that vibrant subjects really stand out. And the Zenfone 6 also deals effortlessly with near and far focal points. If you're trying to take a photo with the Zenfone 6 in dodgy lighting conditions, then no worries. You've got the HDR Plus Smart for handling any tricky contrast, and even an HDR++ feature for really extreme conditions. The standard HDR feature has been very impressive indeed. Even on ridiculously bright days with the scene filled with reflective surfaces, the Zenfone 6 triumphs. Your subject remains bright and sharp while any glare in the background is well and truly tempered. And that's whether you're using the standard or that wide angle lens. Switch to the HDR++ mode and you'll get a bright shot of your subject while the background will actually be boosted, which is particularly handy for evening shots. I also really like the way that Asus has implemented the timer function here on the Zenfone 6 as well. Instead of just having a little separate option up here, what you do is you actually drag the shutter button up to however many seconds that you wish the timer to be for, and then just let go, and as you see, it slowly counts down. Quite a nifty way of doing it. And snap. Of course, the sheer geeky joy of the Zenfone 6 definitely rests in that flippable camera. It's a pretty smooth action, slowing down just before the camera housing clicks into place, and there's not too much of a wait either. It takes just about a second to flip from the rear to the front and in reverse. It's not exactly super speedy, sure, but it's not cumbersome either. Although weirdly, it does seem to pop up a lot faster when it's being used for face recognition compared with when you're actually manually changing it into selfie mode. And you also have physical control over the Zenfone 6's flip camera as well, which comes in pretty handy when you're trying to more outlandish or awkward shot. Just poke the volume rocker with the camera loaded and you'll tilt those lenses through a full 180 degrees, while the bonus smart key just above it acts as a shutter button. Jump into the camera settings menu, you can even set the noise that the camera makes as it flips up. So for instance, you've got speed, the rather trippy sci-fi, and my personal favourite, the rather cheeky dynamic. Top stuff. And of course the good news is that you get pretty much the full range of camera features when that camera is flipped up into that front facing mode, so there's no longer any real compromise when taking selfies. Swapping between the primary lens and the ultra wide angle lens is still a breeze, so you can grab a proper wide angle selfie, something that very few rivals offer, just the likes of the Pixel 3. Portrait photos are also available in selfie mode as well, with impressive edge detection. The Zenfone 6 never really seems to be fooled, even once again in quite testing conditions. And you've got full control over the depth effect as well. well to make that bokeh style blurring as subtle or as extreme as you fancy. Likewise, the full Pro mode can be used in either orientation, and this is fully featured as you'd expect, serving up all of the manual controls that you'd need, plus a level and a histogram as well to help you get great looking results. And another direct advantage of that motorized hardware is the automatic panorama mode. This is a great idea, slowly unfurling the camera from back to front while capturing plenty of images and then stitching them all together into a 180-degree panorama pic. In those times when a super wide angle shot simply won't cut it, this works a charm. Even with people moving about in shot, it doesn't look like you ever get any kind of hideous mutilation. It does take some getting used to, of course, as far as angles and the rest go, but it is definitely worth a pop. However, the Zenfone 6's night mode is only available when the cameras are rear facing. This works well across all kinds of scenarios though. For instance, brightening up a shot that is uniformly murky, or alternatively balancing out a night shot with some lighter elements such as these glowing shop signs. In the latter case, these darker elements aren't as clear as they would be with a rival like Huawei's night mode or OnePlus's brilliant new Nightscape 2, but the results are still bloody good. What about the video chops? Well, whichever way the Zenfone 6's dual lens camera setup is pointed, you can shoot up to 4K resolution footage at up to 60 frames per second for an ultra hyper realistic finish. And image stabilization is pretty strong even at that 4K level, so you can skip merrily down the street vlogging away like a proper influencer.
So this is a test 4K resolution video shot at 30 frames per second on the Zenfone 6. Of course, we are in selfie mode. There is a 5-minute time limit, and hopefully it's looking nice despite being of my face. When you're actually shooting these videos, you can't actually swap between the standard lens and the wide angle lens at the time by the looks of it. But what you can actually do while you are shooting video is actually move the angle of the lens. You can actually flip it all the way around from the front back to the back. It's quite a slow procedure, but as you can see, you can then do a bit of a sweeping panorama to show exactly what is all around you. And if you want to get a bit more of your surroundings in, you can of course shoot in that wide angle mode as well. And you can also shoot video at 4K 60 frames per second if you're using that primary lens, not the secondary wide angle lens. Unfortunately, that tops out of the 4K at 30 frames per second. You do actually have a 2-minute time limit at this setting as well, so you better be quick whatever you're trying to shoot.
One of the other unique video features of the Zenfone 6 is the tracking mode, which can follow your subject even when they move about out of frame. This could be handy if you want to record yourself doing some kind of crazy stunt maybe, or if you're simply too lazy to actually move the phone around yourself when shooting your kids or pets or whatever. The tracking feature generally works well, although the speed of that flipping motion is a limitation. It works really slow in this mode, so anything that is bobbing about the place will quickly be lost. And of course, it only operates on that single axis. Last up, you've got the standard video slow motion and time-lapse features as well. The slow-mo tops off at 240 frames per second for full HD footage, or 480 frames per second if you're willing to drop to the rather grainy 720p resolution. Not great compared to a lot of rivals. As for the time-lapse, that works at the 4K level with a choice of 1, 3 or 5 second delays between frames. And that right there is my full in-depth look at the Zenfone 6's camera, the various features and the photo and video quality. So far definitely impressive, especially considering it starts off with that £500 asking price, some very smart tech, a couple of unique features thrown in there, and just a few general everyday photos and videos. Really cannot complain. It'll be especially appealing to anyone who takes a lot of selfies, as of course there is pretty much no compromise. So you're tempted by the Zenfone 6. Is there anything you think it does particularly well? Definitely let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and please, for more on the latest and greatest tech, do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers everyone, love you!